Hi, my name is Kathryn Delaney. I'm here today to show you how I went through my process of designing a mask. Here we're in Colorado. Our governor just made a statement last Friday recommending that all Coloradans wear some sort of mask or some sort of protection when going out into public. It is getting to be spring and everyone wants to be outside. And of course, people want to obey social distancing, but part of people's, uh, ritual of wellness is being outside and being outdoors. And not all of our trails have the ability for people to stay 6 feet apart. So a lot of people are now wearing masks to allow them to do more things publicly, as long as it's permitted in the town that they're in. So what I did, probably actually just a few days ago, I don't think it's even been a week. I first started making these pleated masks, but I noticed that when I went to put these on, it really was only one layer of material that's over my face. So I decided I wanted to work on the design a little bit. And also I noticed that when I went to put it on, one time when I put it on, I just actually like folded up the inner pleat that was in there accidentally on my nose, and it fit a lot better. So I was like, holy cow, man, that's really interesting. So I looked at that and I decided, when I just set it down, I was like, that's actually a perfect pattern. So I started working on a pattern to make that, because when you look at, for instance, I hope I have everything around me, I might not. When you look at the pattern for the pleated pattern, which is what I started with. I started with a pattern for the pleated mask that I found online. And you can find a pattern. I don't know if you can even see that very well. But this isn't actually something that you can like print and use, because the pattern itself is actually like much bigger than the sheet of paper itself. So what I did is I basically took what I use as like pattern drafting uh, material, and I think it's actually called that. What is it called? It is called pattern tracing cloth. So pattern tracing cloth is pretty awesome stuff, and I will introduce some of my favorite tools as we go along, I guess. Pattern drafting cloth is really cool because it is semi like trans, like you can see through it. Hello, like you can see through it. And it has marks on it that are 1 inch by 1 inch, so it makes it really easy to like see your pattern underneath it, trace your pattern, cut it out of this, and then you still have your main pattern that probably has grading sizes on it. But then this will help you actually like line up the pattern itself on your print, like on your actual material, which can be really helpful if you have a design that you're working with, right? Like if you're working with material that is like just a pretty consistent print, it's not such a big deal. But if you're working with something that has like an actual like print in it and you want it to match up, you need to be able to see that pattern. And so, or you need to be able to see the print. And so that's where that tracing cloth, its technical name, comes in really, really handy. So I did that, and what I did was, let me get my little handy tool here so you can see it. So I traced out the pattern on that cloth, because this is that tracing cloth. And I basically took this pleated mask, and I just lined it up onto that cloth and I traced it out, and I had a pattern that I could work with, right? So that is really, 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 really helpful. And you just have to make sure when you make the pattern itself that you include a seam allowance. So what I did is I actually like sketched up a pattern for people. This is actually to scale. So you can cut, and this is a graded size, maybe you can't see it, graded size of kids, adult small and adult large. Because really the size that you're looking for is this length from like the bridge of your nose down to the tip of your chin. Because, you know, if you have something that is, and I'll just show you here the difference. So we have this, well, first we have it just as it is without me manipulating it anymore. This was like my original pleated pattern, right? Over your ears. And this is the pattern that doesn't have any pleats to it. So it's a bit tighter fitting along the face and along the jawline. So you want to make sure that you have the length that you want to cover on your nose, which is why I have those different sizes. But then I also noticed, and I've gotten word from my friends that work in the medical field and like work in different essential jobs, that they don't like these like ear things because they really irritate their ears over a long amount of time. So what I've been looking at is like different ways to, and granted this is a small little mannequin head, it's more of like a kid's mannequin head, but using headbands is really helpful because these, especially these ones, by Scrunchy, they have like a gripper, a little gripper glue on them that make them stick to your head a little bit more. Because I don't know about you guys, but elastic has been kind of hard to find. It might be easier to find here in a couple weeks, but I ordered some that still is telling me it's going to be here like 2 weeks away. So I've been in this like mode of hunting for different materials that I can use. And you can make ties, like you can definitely make ties, but I feel like that leaves a lot to dangle in the back. And it takes more time and material. So I just wanted to show you my process of, you know, creating a mask as and the steps that I go through. Because first, you know, I started with these ones that have the little ear cuffs, which I think are functional and they're fine if you are wearing something just like to go into a store or to like go into something that's going to be really short term. But if you're going to be wearing them, you know, longer than that, it may be wise to wear something that's more comfortable for you to wear, because some of my friends have started to get kind of like, you know, ouchies behind their ears because that skin is pretty delicate and thin, and having this rub on it and have it be tight all the time can be really irritating to the ears. So my design that I changed after this pleated one, because again, the pleated one, the couple things I don't like about it is that it's basically one single layer of fabric once it's over your face. And these, you know, ear elastics are really, the elastic is hard to find. You might have some sticking around, but it's just hard to find right now. But it's irritating to the ears. So what I did is I redesigned it to be more fitted. I also took away these ear elastics and made it into a band. And then what I also decided to do is, this is an open pocket. So if people want to add an additional layer of filtration, like the HVAC filters that people are cutting up, or even one of those actual pleated disposable masks, you can thread it through and actually like still wear the mask, that's softer on your face, and you don't have to have it around your ears. So, you know, to walk through some of my handy tools that I use when I am making stuff, of course, proper scissors. If you have fabric cutting scissors, don't let anyone ever use them to cut anything but fabric. Nothing. Nothing ever, 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 ever. you're going to need to sharpen these after this mask project if you make a lot of masks for people. I've already seen one of my pairs of scissors go really dull, and so I have also started using this little guy. It's basically a razor blade, which is good if you have like smooth corners and if you have something to guide your cuts. But if you're just doing something by hand, you might make accidental cuts that you don't want to, because you know there's not as much precision with this guy. This is a French ruler or a French curve. I like to use this for going over my patterns just to make sure, like when I'm sketching them out on the actual fabric itself, that I'm getting the proper curve, because the body is a curved beast. I also like metal rulers if you're gonna be using something like this, because if you are using, I don't think I have it in here, I have a green plastic ruler, which is great for pattern drafting because you can see underneath it and you can see like where you're actually drawing your lines. But that thing, the plastic one, can get shredded by this guy, and then you don't actually have a straight edge on your ruler, and that's just like crappy, right? It's like worthless as a ruler if you don't have a straight edge on a ruler, I've discovered. So more tools. What other tools do I want to show you? This tool, this is a dangerous tool. Do you know what this is? It's called a seam ripper, kind of like the Grim Reaper, but a seam ripper. This is something that you use to rip out stitches of things that are mistakes. And one thing that I've learned in sewing for a long time is that if your sewing machine accidentally unthreads itself while you're about to do a stitch, it's like the sewing gods are trying to tell you to check what you're doing so that you don't have to use this as much. Another word of advice that I'll give around this little guy is that he is dangerous. This little thing, it's dangerous. Like, you do not want it to be on the floor ever. Choose a safe cubby that you want it to live in, and always put it there. Always, always. What else do I have in here? This little guy is nice. It's like a little snippy scissors. It has a spring in it, so if you're trimming your threads, it's really quick and easy to use. Notice it also comes with a sheath. Most of the sewing tools, you need sharp, and they come with protective coatings, right? Even my seam ripper did, but I don't know what happened to it. Bad cat, bad cat. Pins. They take time, but they're super duper helpful, and I'll show you where they come in helpful in this situation specifically. And then this tool, this is a tool I'm introducing to a lot of my friends. It's really freaking cool. It's basically like crushed up chalk. I don't know if you can see it. You can't really see it. It's crushed up chalk in there, and it has this little like perforated roller, so you can transfer your patterns onto material. And it's chalk, right? So of course mine's like empty almost. Let's see if I can get any out. I'm also drawing it on something that has white on it, so that's not a good plan. Oh, black might be useful. So if I wanted to draw on a black material, can you see the line that I just drew? Right there, boom, that line. I need like a laser pointer for my chalk line. And what's cool about it is that it's chalk, so you can just like rub it off, and it's really easy to wash off. But it's great for if you're going to be drawing a lot of patterns and tracing a lot of patterns. It's a really useful tool. I won't go much into many more tools because I know you want to get started on how the hell to learn how do we make these masks. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, that's all the tools I'm going to show you for now. Again, keep all your sharp objects off the floor, especially pins too, if you have creatures or if you have anyone else that lives in your house, because it's one thing to curse at yourself if you make a stupid mistake like that, but loved ones will never forgive you. So let's see, let's go. So the first thing you're going to do is cut out your pattern. Because I'm doing a double-sided pattern, I'm doing 2 layers. I'm basically cutting out 2 of these. So, for instance, these 2. And I folded it over itself so that I'm actually cutting out 2 pieces at a time every time that I cut it. And it's important when you're doing that you make sure that you line it up, because if you have a pattern that's not like consistent like this one is consistent, right? Like I can cut this almost any way and I'm not going to screw it up really bad. But other ones, like, and same with this one, right? Like with this red one, although it looks purple, it would be pretty if it's purple. This one, it's consistent, right? So I can cut it any which way I really want, and it's not that big of a deal. But if I want to cut like something that's striped, I'm going to have to make sure that the grain of the fabric is going to be the same on the front and the back if I'm cutting 2 layers at a time. And I want to be able to sew those together, because otherwise I'd basically be sewing, like in this instance, I could be sewing like a diagonal pattern with a straight pattern with a vertical pattern, because I'm just piecing it on the fabric itself rather than actually like lining up the pattern on, like lining up the pattern on the print to make sure that it's aligned. So you're going to cut out 2 of these, right? And both of them, it's like a layer of fabric. So you're cutting out 2 in both. Boom, boom. Okay. Then the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to also have the handy tool of having your iron going. And you're going to iron down these little seams right here. And really the only reason that you're doing that is to make sure that it lays properly on your nose, so that it's not like a bunched up seam. Okay. After that's done, you're going to go through and you're going to sew the seams back towards the wrong side of the fabric. So you're basically like finishing that edge, because eventually when we sew these together, we want that edge to be finished, and we don't want to have to go back and finish it at the very end. Like this is like a pre-finish strategy, right? So we have this little guy, we have the ends sewn, finished, right? Folded back on each other. You are welcome to serge it. I'm kind of in this place where I'm like using as minimal supplies as possible, because I've already run out of black thread. I haven't found it at any store that I've actually physically gone to. I made 2 online orders to a fabric store that I'm not going to badmouth, because I appreciate each and every fabric store, but I was very disappointed to see that both the orders that I had put in were canceled. So I'm really thankful for the stores that are like the super center stores that have fabric, because that's really been the only reason why I can still make masks, because they're open. And so I wear my mask and I go in them and buy whatever fabric and supplies I possibly can. In one batch, because spending a lot of time resourcing materials is very frustrating, which is why I'm teaching you guys how to do this. Hopefully you have stuff at home that you can use. So what I'm going to do is I have these 2 pieces, right? Very clear which side is the right side and which side is the wrong side. You want to actually, after you've finished those edges, okay, and you've pressed that center, you're going to put both the right sides together, okay? So it's like you're making an empty little sandwich, okay? So you have basically 4 pieces of fabric that you've cut out. You have these 2 that you've sewn together, these 2 that you've sewn together, and now you're making, you know, this without the headband. But there's this trick that I discovered in my process of mask making. So at this point, you can go ahead and sew one edge. So let's go ahead and sew one edge of the right side to the right side. Ooh, don't turn off my light. If you know, like you're going to that peak in the nose, so you just want to swivel with your needle still in, you want to swivel your cloth underneath it, just so you can keep that peak. So I've only sewn one of those edges, right? So I still have the bottom edge open, okay? Boom, boom. That's the right side. You can see it, right? Those are like the noses sewn together, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these headbands, So as I said, people are howling right now. I think it's 8 o'clock. Ahoo! Okay, that was my little silent howl for the video. Yeah, maybe you can. Okay, I'm gonna stop doing now. Okay. Anyway, so elastic has been really, really hard to find. So I've basically like sourced headbands because most people want something that's more comfy to wear around their head anyway. And these scrunchy things, which are also headbands. And notice, these are not my fabric scissors that I'm cutting this open with. These are my like random utility badass scissors that I wouldn't cut any fabric with because they're too small and not efficient. Anyway, I have two of these little guys. And what I'm gonna do, if I didn't lose that guy, there he is. Where'd you go? There you are. Okay. So I have the inside, right? Right. Okay. I'm going to put these in here. Say what? I'm going to still put the right side together. So these guys are inside of there, right? Now I'm going to go ahead and stitch that bottom, the bottom part of the sandwich, so to speak, together. And this is like a magic trick that'll make you so happy. So happy. And I figured it out the other day, so I'm so happy. The world's falling to shit. Might as well be magical. Make sure your little seams are nice and flat. Okay. So I have this now, right? You're like, what the heck? What the heck, Kat? That's not a freaking mask. No, it's not. But this is like a little little sleeve thing. So look, like to the hustle. This is the Colorado hustle. So now I have basically almost a mask. Okay. Because that just like threaded around there. Okay. This is when your little pins that are kind of dangerous too come in handy. So you have to basically align your elastic or headband per se, or what is it called? They called it something else. I forget what they called it. No matter, as long as you know what I'm talking about, that works. So you basically want to align it along that bottom hem and pin it, right? So that you have a guideline of where you're going to stitch. Because here's the thing, like I tried to, like, I had prepped a bunch of these before I had headbands, and I thought I was going to use elastic, and then I couldn't find elastic. And so I cut one of these, and I tried to sew it in. And when I tried to sew it in, my sewing machine didn't like it very much. It basically kept spitting more and more thread at it, as if to say, like, what is this chewy thing that you're giving me to try to sew through? Because that's really what elastic is. It's like really kind of something that's going to just mess with the tension of your machine unless you're really careful with how you sew into it. So what I'm doing is giving myself a guideline of where I'm going to sew, because I don't want my needle to go into this elastic. So that's my sound effect for the moment. Okay, so you can see, like, can you see that side on the top is pinned? Okay, now I'm going to do the other side, and I'm going to make sure, because this elastic that I have has one side that has like some kind of like rubbery material that keeps it from sliding off your head, and I want to make sure that it's the same direction on both the upper and the bottom one, or the upper and lower one rather, so that it isn't going in the opposite direction. So, and then you want to make sure when you go to pin it that you're pinning it in such a way that you can remove the pins as you're sewing it. So for instance, if I am laying this underneath my machine, I want to make sure that I can pull these out as I'm moving this way, right? Because if it's going the other way, you're more likely to like stick yourself. And that's never a fun game of attention, to stick yourself with a pin. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this little guy. And you're basically just using like the bottom seam as your guide. You're just like lining it up, and you're trying to like smush it up against there as tight as you possibly can, because that's going to be your guide. And as I said, you don't want to sew into that little sticky web of rubber. You want to sew around it. So we can see this is basically pinned on the top and the bottom. Okay. Most sewing machines have an arm that you can actually physically remove, and I would recommend doing that, because like this little guy, so that you can fit this around there without stretching your elastic. And then you don't even have to sew the elastic in. It can just like freely move inside, and you want to use your little guidelines on the side of your sewing arm, your hammer of your sewing machine, so that you pretty much know what distance you can sew to. And you want to be careful to use the pins, because they're So I learned something cool today, that the UV light actually kills the virus. So you can actually just put your mask in sunlight, expose it to sunlight for like an hour and a half, and there's no virus on it. My friend who's a nurse that I'm making masks for told me that. What? Crazy shit. That's actually how they treat their fucking masks. I know. Pardon my French. But I do use a French curve, so I can say French things sometimes. Right. Anyway, yes, I do sometimes use accents. It's part of my past. All right, so let's see. I lost my little tomato. The tomato must stay there. You don't want to lose the tomato. Let's see. Almost done. Almost done. The first few that I made of these were so much longer because I had to cut elastic and cut things to have things thread through. And this is just like, back it up, go forward. Okay, so now, dun, 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 dun. Drum roll, please. All right, so I have some little threads to snip, right? Of course, but this is the mask. And you know what's awesome about it? Is that you don't have to worry about like accidentally pulling your earrings. You can wear it as a headband sometimes too. Be hardcore. Everyone looks badass in their bandanas, right? Like we're like, bring it back to the Wild Wild West. What up? It doesn't pull on my iggies. It's very snug to my face. And my next round is actually going to have a little piece of metal that goes in here for my friends that are, as they say, they have big sniffers. So I'm going to take care of them for that. But that is how you make masks. If you want the pattern, I'm going to go ahead and post it probably in the next like 24 hours or so, like the directions of how to sew it, as well as the PDF on my blog, which is rootsofalchemy.com. I'm also going to probably post this video, or I am going to post this video on YouTube. So if you have any questions or desires to learn how to sew something else for some reason, please let me know. If you would like to donate to me in making videos like this, I would totally appreciate and accept it. You don't have to. I just want people to know how to make these things in a fitted way, but I do totally appreciate it because I went to pattern drafting school, and that would help support my cause of pattern drafting. And my PayPal for that is rootsofalchemy@gmail.com too. But yeah, that's how you make a mask. I'm making them for people. I'm also making them with bands, like actual headbands, so that they can be even more like gentle, because I think this might be a little harsh for some people too. Making them for all sizes of people. If you just want to measure this part of your face, I think that's the best way to make sure that your pattern is going to fit you appropriately. Other than that, I do recommend using 100% cotton because I think it's more breathable. But then this one, see, you can check it out. Like these aren't going to shift down, right? Because they're actually sewn into this channel of this hem up here. And then additionally, if you have a filter that you want to like sneak in there, you can thread it through. And honestly, I would show you how to do that, but I haven't been able to find a filter. So there you go. I will probably show you how to do that next time. But if you have any questions, please let me know. Reach out to me, rootsofalchemy@gmail.com. Hopefully this was helpful, and I hope you stay blessed. Love you tons.